It takes from, say, 15 to 20 years to demoralize a society.
People have given me a hearing without legal representation or anything.
Did you shoot the president?
I didn't shoot anybody, no, sir.
Pentagon officials reluctantly admitted to the New York Times 17 months ago that the military has secretly studied UFO incidents, in part so it might figure out the technology.
Well, whatever that means, sure, he's crazy as mad as a hatter. What difference does it make? You know, a long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy.
Welcome to the Conspiracy Files. Hey everybody, welcome back to the next episode of the Conspiracy Files. As always, I'm Zero. Thanks for being here once again, guys. Shout out to everybody listening. The podcast is exploding. I'm really happy about that. Hopefully my information's been good for you, and hopefully you've gotten something out of this. But out of all of this, I want you to understand that despite what I say, and despite what I've said, and despite what I will say, I have nothing but your best interest in mind, and nothing but your best interest at heart. Some of the things I know that have been said are, while scary, are true, while may cause fear in some, they are still true. The truth doesn't care about how we feel, unfortunately. And facts don't care about our feelings. And I think that that's a conversation worth having with anybody. And no, I'm not poking at, quote-unquote, for lack of better terms, snowflakes or people with any ailments, PTSD or anything of the sort. I'm merely saying that the truth is the truth. And sometimes those truths presented as facts are scary, but we should also be willing to accept those things. The truth isn't always nice. I don't expect this podcast to be all sunshine and rainbows, and I don't expect it to be all super fun all the time. A lot of times I'm going to sit back and have some fun with some stuff and really expand on some really off-the-wall stuff. But when it comes down to things like what we're dealing with currently with this virus in the States and around the world, I don't think that it's a time to worry about being afraid, and I think it's time to worry about being alert and being up to date and being up to speed with current information so you know what's going on, so you can better take care of yourself, your family, and your household, and the people that you love. And that's not always fun. That requires work, it requires vigilance, and it requires strength. Because these are times where the opposites, panic, fear, and unrest, are going to present themselves. Being able to fight those emotions and being able to stifle those emotions in yourself will help you and will help your neighbors and will help your family. That being said, I want to spend this episode clarifying and dispelling things because as time goes with all situations, as panic ensues and as people worry, people look for off-the-wall answers. People look for solutions in places where they would never get them before. And what I mean by that is, let's talk about people who throw around, for example, martial law scenarios. I bring this up because I see it more and more as time goes and as things change and as counties and cities decide to limit travel and lock things down. A martial law scenario, while I'm sure was communicated in some meeting or in some meetings, is absolutely untrue at this point in time. Do I see it happening down the road? I honestly don't know. To be completely honest, I don't know. The people that I talk to, I've heard nothing about it. The people that I get my information from, and through all of my research, I've heard nothing about it. So I honestly do not know. Do I think that it's been talked about and brought up in meetings? Yeah, sure. I think all options should be discussed. Do I think that it's an option on the table? Right now, no, I don't. Do I see it down the road? I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because, obviously, the obvious crappy answer is we can't predict the future. So it's hard to say. Martial law is a very, very serious thing, and something that you don't just throw around. It's been used in just a few circumstances in our entire history. A lot of you who are listening to this aren't new to current events, conspiracy theory, popular culture stuff. We all have a sense and idea of what martial law is. And we all know what it is. And, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but what is exactly martial law? But on the federal level, the president has the right to impose martial law. In each state, the governor has a right to impose martial law within the borders of the state. So individual states themselves can claim this, or the president can claim it nationwide. It's used in a lot of ways. It's used for a lot of reasons, and we've used it for a lot of reasons. But ultimately, the important thing is that it suspends due process. But as far as, inmates and prisoners, they'll likely remain in prison and jail, and they just won't be able to engage in programs. They're not going to let all the inmates out. They're not going to let prisoners go. Some places that might be super affected, and these are like super hot zone places. I know Iran allegedly let some of their inmates go, but it's understandable. They have a horrible infrastructure. Iran is not the United States. Our infrastructure is much better. But in the case of a pandemic where this stuff would spread inside a confined area like that, I would assume that they would have let the non-violent offenders go first. But I don't know for sure. I assume. But as it stands right now, none of these things are on the table. But martial law, exactly by definition, is the imposition of direct military control of normal civilian functions by a government, especially in response to a temporary emergency, such as invasion or major disaster, or in an occupied territory. Civilians defying martial law may be subjected to a military tribunal court. They will be court-martialed, that's what that means. So military court, not civilian court. Because it's no longer civilian underworking, it's military underworking. That makes sense. But the president can declare it, Congress could declare it via voting, and individual governors of states can declare it. There are several decisions between the American Civil War, World War II, so on and so forth, that there have been martial law scenarios declared. And the reason being is mainly when civilian law enforcement agencies are unable to maintain public order and safety. So when things get out of control and law enforcement can no longer effectively do its job, which is really hard to do, that's when that steps in typically. That hasn't happened very much. Do I see it happening? Nah. I'm pretty confident that that's not going to happen. So let's dispel that and take that off the table. Get it out of your social media feeds. Get it out of your head. Stop panicking over things that haven't happened. And yes, we're going to see cases in the United States of coronavirus explode. Why? Because as testing becomes more widely available, you're going to see cases increase everywhere. And what I've told you in previous episodes will become true, is that people are infected and they don't know. Some don't experience the symptoms, some will, and some will die. And some will be just fine. People will make it through, people won't. It's a very broad spectrum. We know this. But you're going to see cases explode. No reason to panic. Testing is more widely available. People are still going to contract the virus. People are still going to get sick. But the only difference now is that tests are going to be pumped out. Probably not enough, but enough to where the cases are going to be more accurate and we can make better decisions. So, panic buying toilet paper, probably not the best idea. Should you buy supplies and things to get you by for, I don't know, a month, 3 months? Sure. If it's in your best interest and you feel that way and you feel like that's what you need to do, I'm not going to dispel that for you. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I'm not going to tell you to be underprepared. I think being overprepared is a great idea. Should you take things that you don't need from people who do need it? Obviously not. If you've got a small bunker full of toilet paper, my guess is that you probably overdid it. I don't think everything is a conspiracy here. Some things I definitely do. I've said that before. I don't necessarily think coronavirus is one giant conspiracy. I think that it was, in my personal opinion, I think it was a virus that humans contracted, and it got out of control, and we didn't act fast enough, and now we're here. Very simple. Do I think that it was engineered in some lab or something like that? Although I wouldn't be surprised to hear that. Do I think that? Not necessarily, no. Not necessarily. But I definitely think it's a pretty horrible, bad thing. I think it's no joke, and I don't think we should be making jokes. I understand the memes. I get it. Sometimes we gotta joke to get by and get through the sanity and push through. But I don't think thinking this thing is a 100% complete joke is the right thing to do. I think now is the time to take things very seriously and worry about your immediate health and worry about the health of the people around you, and not change your actions for yourself, but change the actions for people who you may potentially infect, which would be our elderly and our people of quote-unquote advanced age. You have to understand that what might be right for you might not be right for them. It would be safe to assume that these people are probably afraid to get outside and go to the store and get supplies. So maybe if you have an elderly neighbor or somebody who's immunocompromised or seemingly unhealthy, maybe knock on their door and ask them how they're doing and if they need anything. Because if you're healthy and fit and you can get out and you're not afraid to do so, then maybe do that for your neighbor. Because I don't think now is the time to not work together. They say social distancing. Sure, that's fine. I don't think we should be congregating in stores like Walmart, and I don't think we should be sitting in lines for hours waiting to get in to get toilet paper. I think we should get what we need and get the hell out. But congregating in mass quantities of people like we've been doing isn't going to do anybody any good. Is it going to slow the spread? Potentially. But we're still spreading it. I mean, the goal is to just get people to stay home for a little bit. And we're going to have to deal with that when we're going to be bored. You can't really have your old way of life right now, and we're just going to have to deal with that for a little bit. Myself included. So, if you don't have to go out, maybe don't fucking go out just because you want to. But if there's some crap that you need, go get it. But otherwise, stay the hell home. Play some board games, play some video games, go on a live chat with your friends and have some fun. Play Monopoly via FaceTime. Get creative, do some crafts, and use your time wisely. Going out because you want to get a cup of coffee is just selfish and pretty dumb. And if you want fast food and want to utilize the drive-thru, I'm not so big on that personally. I think they should be wearing gloves and masks to prepare our food because they're going to sneeze and sniffle and cough, and it's a natural human thing. But nobody knows who has this thing, and nobody knows how far it's spread, and nobody knows how widespread it is. And we got to be careful. I'm not telling you not to, I'm just saying be careful. Currently, let's talk about the COVID-19 in the States. Currently there are 30,291 cases with 388 deaths. 178 are considered recovered. As of right now, New York has the most cases. Total cases, 15,168, and that's a case rate of new cases of plus 4,796, with 58 new deaths and 114 total deaths. That's a lot. New York's a big place, though. It's to be expected. It doesn't mean that it's running rampant. I mean, it is, but not like you think it is in your head, you know? Second place, Washington. Total cases, 1,793. The other things have yet to be reported. California, 1,543 total cases, 152 new. 28 total deaths with plus 4 new deaths reported. A lot of new cases, they're all in the hundreds. We get down eventually to where West Virginia is reporting 12 new cases, or total cases, sorry, with 1 new case. If it's 12, it might as well be 1,200, and if it's 1,200, it might as well be 12,000. In a place where you have millions of people, it's going to be a lot. Those are just the cases, that have been tested. We know these things as fact. We know these numbers to be true, as far as we can test them. But what about the untested numbers? Everybody wants to know that answer, but we don't know. We don't have the tests. We don't have the testing capability right now. We don't have the ability to test every single person. In my state, there's almost 4 million people. We don't have 4 million tests on hand to just give out to one state like that. I wish we did. I really wish we did, because it'd be able to help us determine what route we need to take and the best steps to take that route and what we need to do to hashtag flatten the curve, right? But that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And it's definitely not going to happen right now, especially since we're only wheeling out about 500,000 test kits a month. It's just not going to happen, man. The drive-by testing sites are pretty cool. I think that's a cool idea. But ultimately, we don't have enough testing kits for everybody. There's 330 million people in the United States alone. So you put 2 and 2 together there, and you figure out, the numbers are going to be accurate. They're only going to be as accurate as they can be, provided we have the test kits distributed. And even then, they're going to be delayed because it takes time to ship them out and send them to where they need to go. But what does this mean? What does it mean for the economy? What does it mean for the people? We're not really seeing the curve flatten out. Cases are rising, and everybody's just thinking, oh God, the country's over as we know it. Not necessarily true. I think if we take the right approach, I think it's going to hurt for sure. I think we're going to take a couple hard punches to the face, and it's going to be tough, but I think we'll get through it. I really do. But I'm less concerned about the direct impact of the virus itself, and I'm more concerned about the impact it's going to have on the economy. That, to me, is the scariest thing. Job losses are going to be extreme, for sure. As businesses close down, our restaurants, our bars, cafes, things where people will congregate en masse, they are either shut down or shutting down. I know some places are just outright refusing to shut down and stay open as long as they can. And I get it. Everybody needs a paycheck. Most of us live paycheck to paycheck, and everybody needs money coming in because they have to pay bills. So it's a big concern. It's a big concern for the economy on a large scale and a small scale and an independent scale. And as of 40 minutes ago, for the first time in 228 years, the stock exchange is going to open without its trading floor. And, that's new. And is it scary? Sure, it's scary. It's a sign of how bad things are currently, and it's just the truth. And if it scares you, that's okay. It's all right to be a little worried about it and concerned, and you should be. But there's no need to panic. The panic doesn't do anybody any good. It's not going to do you well. It's not going to do us well. What that means is that the trading floor is going to be emptied, which means people won't be there, but the trading is going to be fully electronic. It means that people are going to work from remote stations. People are going to work from home. Trading will still happen. It's just going to be done remotely. And I'm sure it's going to have its bugs. I'm sure it's going to have its flubs because it's a new concept. And I think they're going to spend the time while the floor is closed, cleaning, disinfecting everything as they should. And I think that it's very smart. And as we all know, if you monitor your stocks, all you have to do is look at your retirement and you can see that it's dropped off the floor. Most of us have lost 30% on their retirement, myself included. And it really sucks. It really does, because, on like a 5-year trend, like we've reset the whole last 5 years of work that we've done, saving money for our retirements and building those accounts. But that's not necessarily call for you to pull out your retirement money and pull out every dime that you have and just dump everything, because money still has to stay in the economy as long as it can. But I do think it's wise to have some emergency money set aside. How much, that's not for me to determine. It's for you to determine and what best suits your situation. Some people make more money, some people make less. It's hard to say. I can't give you an exact dollar figure, and I'm not going to try. I would just tell you, on the safe side, be over-prepared and have 3 months of your bills ahead of time if you can. A lot of people can't do that. I get it. A lot of us live paycheck to paycheck, and a lot of us have trouble coming up with $500. I get it. I understand. I'm not naive to that. But for those of us who are able to, for those of us who are lucky and can, make sure you can get by for 3 months if you're potentially out of work. Because it is going to be rough. It's going to be tough. It's just not going to be fun. A lot of us have lived in excess. Some of us have not known famine. Some of us have not known what it was like to live through 2008, 2009, when the market crashed. I lived through that. We made it. It was tough. We had to stop buying all the fun stuff and making big purchases. I would definitely tell you, maybe don't go out and buy a house right now. Probably, even though rates are low, mortgage lenders and realtors will tell you to, oh yeah, rates will never be lower ever. You'll never see them this low ever again. That's great, but people don't necessarily have that money to go around. And I don't think that it's wise, in my opinion. I'm sure there's a plethora of people that will tell you otherwise. That's very smart. I can't imagine with a collapsing market. I can't imagine with a downturning economy. And I can't imagine with people losing work in droves that buying anything huge is going to be smart. But maybe they can find a reason why it is. Because I don't know. I don't know. I have no answer for that. But what I can tell you is that we're trying. You know, people are out there working their asses off to figure out a solution. I can tell you that the central banks around the world are offering a wide variety of stimulus measures to kind of combat the problem and battle the economic impact. And a lot of investors are calling for the U.S. government to create a lending program that would keep businesses afloat until extreme measures to combat the spread are necessary anymore. And we can kind of resume as normal or start to rebuild again. But I hope that the federal government can kind of halt the panic because of all the mass sell-offs and all of that. But I ultimately think it's going to be bad. I ultimately think it's going to be hard, and it's going to be real tough. And you have to wonder just how far is it going to drop until we hit the bottom, as far as the market is concerned. But I don't know. I don't know what that number is, because those of you who monitor your stocks, you see the drops every day. You see us losing hundreds and hundreds of points every day by the day, and we've lost all of our gains, and we're back to 2008, 2009 numbers currently. So yes, it is scary, but it is fact. This has happened, and this is real. Unfortunately, it's real. And I can see where that will trigger a lot of mass panic in people. I can see where that will trigger a lot of rumors, and I can see where that would trigger a lot of zany, crazy ideas that people will come up with to some, looming, take all your money out, sell everything you have. Not necessarily. Some people, I'm sure, have done that and are doing that. I don't think you need to sell everything that you have, but I think if you need the extra cash on hand, sell some stuff, sure. Put some crap up on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or whatever. Get yourself some extra cash on hand just in case, and prep for the emergencies, because it's going to happen. To what extent, I don't know for sure. But it's definitely going to happen, we just don't know. We don't know exactly what's going to happen until we see it happen at this point. We have to take it day by day. And as I speak, one of the first big things you're going to hear in the news is that Rand Paul, senator, has tested positive for coronavirus. But he said that he's feeling fine and he's in quarantine. A lot of people won't care. A lot of people care. A lot of people are happy or whatever. Mixed emotions about that. But he's the first known senator to test positive. He said he's asymptomatic. He was tested out of an abundance of caution due to his extensive traveling and events he was at. He wasn't aware of any direct contact with any infected person. Seems to fit the mold of everybody else. Unaware, unassuming, infected by who knows who. But he says he expects to be back in the Senate after his quarantine period ends, which will probably be 14 days, which is silly. It should be longer, in my opinion. And he said he's going to work through it. And the D.C. office began operating remotely 10 days ago, so hopefully no staff had contact with him while he was infected. Who knows who they had contact with? Who was infected? I don't know. But let's hope, despite how you feel about the guy, that he continues to at least have some semblance of life and not be affected too harshly by this thing. I don't wish badly on anybody. But I think that this is just going to be a continuing trend, because it is. There's not a lot going on right now, honestly, that I could tell you that you don't already know. And obviously, sure, keep yourself clean. wash your hands, stay away from people. This stuff lives in the air for, I believe, up to, 4 days? It's either 4 days or 4 hours. Either way, it's in the air, it sticks. If you can, stop touching door handles with your bare hands. Wear gloves. If you feel like you need to wear a mask, then freaking wear one. If it makes you feel better, if it makes you feel safe, drop your ego, wear a freaking mask, or just cover your face with something. If you're gonna cough, stop coughing on people, man. Clean up after yourself, clean your hands, clean your face, clean everything you touch, and everything you're gonna touch. Use some common sense, man. That's pretty obvious and pretty clear. And, but let's move forward a little bit and talk about one of the highly discussed subjects, which is military. As we speak, and as I said on the last episode, National Guard is very well here and very well active. Active in, I believe, 26 states currently. And currently in all 50, as they should be. They are not here to further some Illuminati plot to take over and expand government control or enforce martial law or, create some post-apocalyptic thing that's been discussed through several channels that I've seen with people reporting fake and false and fictitious information. I still can't really seem to wrap my head around why people want to do that for fun. I don't understand why that's a fun thing for people to do. I get that there are trolls out there. I understand that, but I don't understand why you have to necessarily use this subject to get your rocks off. There are enough people out there who have lost their jobs. This is probably the last thing that they want to worry about. And if you're into that, getting your kicks for this sort of information, then you suck. The National Guard is a civilian military. They're volunteers, people just like you and me, who show up to help deliver supplies and ensure that law enforcement can do their jobs efficiently and well and maintain normal, everyday doings of life. They make sure the routine stays the routine. And they make sure that we're safe, and they're making sure that we're protected. They're here for us. They're not here for the Fed. They're not here for the Illuminati. They're not here for anything else other than to make sure that you guys have what you need, or to get you what you need, get you supplies, food, whatever rations, especially in the hot zones, maintain a non-panic situation. They're not here to control you. They're not here to necessarily limit your movements. They will to an extent, and what I mean by that is that those places in other states and other counties and other towns that are locking their towns down from essential to non-essential, and or from non-essential to essential, rather, they make sure that that's adhered to. And what you have to understand is, in situations like this, people aren't messing around. And, there are people out there who will take this opportunity to conflate and inflame a problem and make it worse when we don't need to. That's not what the National Guard does. And I can guarantee you, if you talk to 99% of them, and they say, oh man, when shit pops off, what are you going to do? Are you going to protect the people, or are you going to protect the government? I would probably say, in my personal opinion, with a logical, level-headed mentality, that they would step down from their duty. Because I would. If somebody told me to take my gun and shoot an innocent civilian, I would say, no thanks. Punish me all you want. But dude didn't do anything. Not doing that. Pretty sure many and most, if not all of them, would do the same thing. There are always people who will go to the extreme, though. In any situation, not just this one, in any situation. But keep in mind, there are friends of mine who are monitoring all the movements. There are people who are monitoring what's going on, what they're doing, just in case something fishy should happen. Some people would say, well, you're being a little too suspicious. And while I can see that, I also say better safe than sorry. I like to know. I like to know what's going on out there, and I think everybody should know what's going on out there. I don't think it's wrong to know what's going on. I don't think you're at fault for wanting to know what's going on. So I pay attention to the movements. I pay attention to what they're doing and where they're going and why they're doing it. And I get that information, and if it's important and relevant, I will give it to you guys. My goal, again, as always, is never to fearmonger. Although some things I may say are scary and may make some people afraid. My goal is not to do that as much as possible, but to speak with a rational head and a logical mind as much as possible, and speculate on the things that we don't know. And keep in mind, I said speculate. Things that are future tense are never truth and should not be taken 100% as such. Keep in mind, future tense conversations are speculation until they happen, if they do at all. So at this point in time, no, I do not think some martial law military takeover is going to happen. Do I think that the market's going to dump and we could potentially go back on the gold standard? Yeah, I absolutely see that happening. Do I think it's 100% going to happen? Not 100%, but I see it happening. It would make sense. Because I don't think everything out there is a conspiracy, once again. And I don't believe in using fear to create a call of action. Not only is it wrong, but it's also illegal. So don't do that shit. Unless you have good reason to, and valid reason to, and a legal reason to. Keep in mind, I just do a podcast. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an economist. I'm not a virologist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not any of those things. I'm just like you. I work every day. I still luckily have my job, and you can hear my kid in the background. I have a family to support. And I'll do those things. And I'll continue to speak with my sources and never name them. Refute that all you want and consider it unsubstantiated if that makes you feel better. But my sources are very well sourced. They work in the hot zones. They work in the mess of things in medical and military and logistics. And they give very good information because it is real time, it is real, it is valid. And all of it has happened. So the rest we don't know, because future tense is speculation. We cannot see the future. We cannot predict the future. The only thing we can see is the day by day, the here and now. And right here, right now, shit sucks. Eventually, I think it will get better. Do I know when? I could say, oh, this Tuesday, but that would be speculation, and I would most likely be wrong. I think it's safe to say several months down the road, we will see some sense of normalcy again, but I don't think it's going to be 100% normal. I think this is one of those things that will never make us 100% quote-unquote normal again. I think we will all hopefully live our lives a little bit differently for the better. And I think that we should take note of that, and we should consider that in all the things that we do from here on out. And also, I want to take note that civilians are getting together and doing a really cool thing as we speak. At this point in time, many people that I know have banded together and are using their own supplies, their own money, their own time to create masks for medical personnel who need them and have none. And I think that's really fucking awesome. And if you recall on a previous episode, I mentioned and stressed upon the importance of working together again and helping your neighbor. And this is a very clear sign of that happening. In the midst of all the panic and fear and wondering about things, it's the small things like that that make things better for the time being. And there are people doing it, making them in hundreds, and there is also a person who is using their own supplies in a 3D printing machine to create ventilators for hospital workers, for medical staff, for their family and friends, and give them out for free. Endearing, heartwarming, very cool. It's so cool, man. Honestly, it really is. It's so super cool. People like that are the people that are going to make this better, and people like that are the people who are going to help this thing go away. And people like that are going to make the people who are afraid feel much better, knowing that there are still good people out there, and not everybody wants to riot and loot and steal. There are still good people out there. And I'm going to leave this episode on that. And be sure to tell them thank you. And be sure to tell your medical staff thank you, because they're working very hard day and night, 24/7, to find some sort of care procedure that's best, to find an eventual cure for this, or a vaccine, whatever you want to say. I say cure because I want it cured. I want it to go away just like everybody else does. But they're working day and night tirelessly, long hours, way too long, way too many hours, and sacrificing their time from their families for the betterment of everybody. And so are the people who are stocking the shelves currently, so you can panic buy your toilet paper and panic buy your supplies. Don't do it. Give them a break, man. Some of them I know personally, and they are overwhelmed, and they're tired, and they're working tirelessly. Give them a break. Thank you guys for all you do. Thank you guys for listening. As always, follow the Twitter at The Confiles. TheConfiles. I would love for you guys to come join the Discord. You can join by going to the Twitter and clicking the link for the Discord channel in the bio. The bio is a direct link to the Discord where you can chat with all kinds of really super informative people. It's a really good group of people. It's a growing community, and it's growing every day. And it's really cool to watch it go down. Occasionally I hop in there and we all get in a voice chat, and I'm going to start doing those probably once a week, probably on Sundays, where everybody's kind of calmed down and, everybody's going to have a lot more time to be on, so a lot more information is going to be able to be delivered, and that's really cool. But I hope to see you guys in there. I'm Zero with the Conspiracy Files. Take care of yourself.